Welcome back to the SMITE OPL week number 2. Up now, we have got Alpha Sydney up against Royalty. Royalty, a new team to the OPL. Alpha Sydney just barely missing out on land last split. This is one of those series they need to win if they want to put themselves in a top 4 position and head down to the Split 3 finals later this year. So, Alpha Jackal, we haven't seen too much of Royalty. Alpha Sydney, of course, we saw a lot of last split, but Royalty last week, very rough outing against both teams they played, Avantgarde and Team Pandemonium.
It was a bit of a baptism of fire there for Royalty, but now they're going up against more, I wouldn't say beatable opposition for them in Alpha Sydney. They even went into relegations and managed to take a 2-1 victory over Alpha Sydney. So there's potential right now for Royalty to get a 1 or even a 2-0 against an OPL opposition.
So we're going to go ahead and start picks and bans here. One thing I've noticed out of Royalty is they really value magical gods in the AD carry position. So they value the Freya in that position. While Freya can align as a carry later in the game, they struggle to get to that spot. They need to get something a bit more early or mid game, something like a Soul as a mage AD carry would be good, or in fact just play a regular Hunter in that spot. Raijin banned out here by Alpha Sydney, and now Terra banned out by Royalty.
And option back over to Alpha Sydney. They could look to ban out Fred. They could look to ban out Susano as well. Because they're taking a elect to ban out the other support pick, which is highly valued, and that's going to be the Fafnir. 0% ban percentage, surprisingly, for that Fafnir. First time it's been banned. Yanna's going to be the takeaway from Royalty, leaving quite a bit open, but also means that they can pick up a couple of high-value picks themselves.
So Susano's open, and if we see it their first pick, no surprise there. Susano just too strong at the moment, really, to not pick up. But it leaves open for Royalty the Raven, which we've seen been played. Week 1, pretty much unbeatable. Week 2, we saw before, Chuckles actually lost with that playing that Raven in the solo lane. Soul and Raven going to be picked up here by Royalty. So Suspiria's actually struggled a fair amount in the solo lane. So getting him a Raven, which to not necessarily win lane, but at least get some kind of safe farm off with, is important for Royalty if they don't want KO to really go off in that solo lane. Neath and Freya now picked up here for Alpha Sydney, so that's going to be a Neath mid for Swifty while the Freya goes to the AD carry position.
Gratask is going to be the pickup for the jungle for Royalty, so going against the Susano. It should be a good matchup for the Rantasker. If Susano gets in close to try and do his damage, Rantasker can stun him out and can then use his flurry to do a lot of damage. And then from there on, just dash away and get himself out to freedom and safety. While Susano just left there wondering what happened to my HP bar. And the Freya Neath combination, Neath is going to be the mid lane for Swifty once again. And Freya in the ADC position, early game transitions into the mid and late game for the Freya.
Still a ban here is very interesting from Alpha Sydney, and that's actually a target ban towards Cosner side of Royalty, who played Scylla during the relegations and absolutely devastated Alpha Sydney with it. The Sylvanas banned out now by Royalty, so taking away from Tori Sky's god pool. The two main gods he's played have been Sobek and Sylvanas, so taking them away from him is a smart move. Barkus now taken away by Alpha Sydney, so limiting the options for Royalty as well. However, Geb is still open. Ares is still open. There's a couple of different options that Royalty could go for here. Athena is still open, in fact. It's actually going to be the Geb pickup here now for Royalty.
Obviously, they still need to pick up a support themselves, so by banning away a couple of supports from Royalty and a support from Alpha Sydney, they're forced into a low-tier support pick, are Alpha Sydney and Royalty. They've got the Geb, Athena, probably, as you said, the only top-tier support, I would say, out of the remaining God pool, and that's exactly what's going to be picked up. For Mana for the solo laner going up against Raven can be poked out quite easily. Very limited sustain coming out for that for Mana until level 5, and Raven can really abuse that. So I'm having a look at KO to play safe in the early game, to then, once he hits level 5, to then look to try and punish this Raven pick. Noir for the mid lane, however, for Cosner, providing a lot of damage, a very safe mid laner as well against this Neath. But there's one thing which I don't like about it, and that's the real lack of confirmable damage when she's on the ground.
I really like I really would have liked to see the Ares on the side of Alpha Sydney. Can actually do a lot of work against the Ratatoska, prevents a lot of his dashes. Against the Geb as well, can prevent him from rolling out. Can bring in a lot of targets with his ultimate, or burn a lot of beads that you can then exploit with picks like a Susano or a Neath, or even a Freya as well. But the Athena pick as well, it's acceptable.
Yeah, this pick is given the Husey seal of approval.
All right, as we head into match, we can see it is in fact going to be the Neath in the mid, Freya in the ADC position. Never really too much of a question about that, although, you know, sometimes people like to throw out spicy picks in that mid lane and AD carry positions, but Alpha Sydney going for a pretty standard composition here.
And you have Swifty on that Neath again, sort of picking up last week when they faced up against Corvidae, but he picked it up first position last time and it really allowed Corvidae to get some power picks in. This time, they got themselves a power pick first and then looked to pick up the Neath, which is a better drafting phase overall, which is something they needed to work on, and it could show in this game just how much they've worked on it.
Yeah, last week, as you were hinting on there, Alpha, there was a lot of jank in their picks. Like they passed over a Susano in the jungle for an Awilix when the Susano was available, or they banned out Susano themselves and then picked up the Awilix, which, you know, didn't work out for them. And they first picked a Neath when there were a lot of stronger options out there, and they were punished for it by Avant-Garde, I believe it was. No, not Avant-Garde. It was Corvidae in that second. They play Avant-Garde tomorrow. There we go. That's why I have them on the brain. And so, you know, Corvidae picked up their first win in a very long time, which was good for them. And they simply outdrafted Alpha Sydney in that stage. You know, it wasn't by any means that Corvidae were a mechanically better team than Alpha Sydney. It's just their drafting phase was so strong.
Tagora's already getting the pressure put onto him by Rana Barana on this Freya. And it's not too often you see a Freya with pressure in lane, but Geb just doesn't offer that much in terms of lane push. He's one of the more passive supports in the game, and Athena can really abuse that. And I do love the positioning, though, from Royalty, making sure they are on either side of the wave so Taurus guys can't get a double taunt.
Dashes in, gets some damage down onto the wave. That's one thing Athena can provide, actually, is a little bit of lane push against a more passive lane. You know, you dash in there, get down the shield wall, deal some damage out there, and that can help your Freya out. And you group them up very nicely for the Freya pulse as well.
Left-hand side, Run and Torrance guys looking to make an early rotation to the mid lane, because those left-side mid harpies are still up and still ready to be contested, and Alpha City look like they're going to try and take those down just now. Royalty, they either have to clear the wave and give up those left harpies, or go for the left harpies and give up half a mid wave, and they've done the smarter option of taking the confirmable farm.
Solo lane, Suspiro taken to under 25% HP. That's his overhand kick going as well now, as KO is getting a lot of damage down onto this Raven.
Now, we saw KO have this Vamana banned away from him by Corvidae last week consistently, and it's really starting to show exactly why they were doing it. He's a very prominent and very proficient Vamana player. Suspiro, though, he's doing what he can on this Raven pick to try and put the pressure onto him, but it's just not working out right now. The wave clear from KO is just too strong. Slicey
has rotated over here. He's not level 5, but KO is. So the big baby is available. Swifty was looking over as well, but he's not level 5 either, so World Weaver Ultimate not available. If Suspiro comes out too far from his tower, could be looking for we could see a potential gank here coming out between Slicey and KO. Suspiro, unaware that Slicey's here. Slicey uses the jet stream, lays down some damage onto the wave. Suspiro wisely backs away before Slicey can apply any more damage.
Slicey, what he should have done there is teleport into the jet stream. It puts the cooldown down to 8 seconds rather than what it's currently at, which I believe is 15. So it means that it's going to be available for him even sooner. It wasn't punished at all, so it's no harm, no foul, but right side Elemental is going to go the way of Alpha City. Once again, they're starting to put some pressure out on the map by getting most of them contestable objectives.
Mid lane, 3-man grouping from Royalty here. This is good from them. If they can get some damage out here, potentially pick, it'll be a good start for them, but they're already starting to rotate a bit better than we saw last week. Shank pulled back in, forced a stone shield himself. Now Royalty treating towards their own lane. Speed buff and red buff are up on both sides of the map. Yeah, a little bit of a pause here coming out from Royalty, but all the buffs are up on the map, so look for both teams to go after those and take those ones away. Royalcaster does have his fully built Acorn available now, so this is the time where Ratatosk's got a little bit of advantage over everyone else in the game because he can be out in the field and buy an item. At the moment, he's got a lot more physical power online than Slicey does, and so if he can get a good initiate, or if Shank can get himself a good initiate, then they could find some success. But it's going to be Tori from Tori Skies. Shank knocked up, clicks him onto Slicey. good turnaround here from Royalty thus far. Over the wall comes the Spirit, diving through with the Mystic Rush. Root slicing in place, but a meditation from Tory Skies saves the life of his jungler. Up goes Nuwa with the Fire Shards, but a great Athena ultimate from Tory Skies gives the damage mitigation necessary for Slicey to survive.
I think the health and multi-potions from Slicer were enough to save his life there, but it does mean that Royalty get a free invade onto this speed buff, or is it free as Shank? Taken so low, it's going to be first blood for Swifty.
A lot of damage now on return onto Alpha Sydney. Tory Skies taking below 25% HP. KO in the big baby ultimate, almost back to full health, but Royalty still sticking around the speed buff. Probably not a good position to do so right at this moment. KO goes in, knocks up Royal Custard, and a burst through from Slicey and Swifty is enough to secure the rat. Suspiria now taken very low. World Weaver comes through for Swifty. Taunt from Tory Skies, and KO gets a kill onto his lane opponent. Speed buff going to be taken by Alpha Sydney.
And if they were feeling brave enough, they could have actually invaded the enemy speed buff, but the Wrath already been used by Slicey. No confirm there on the invade with Royal Custard's respawn time, but that low, it just wasn't a potential option for them, in my opinion. Rise of Mid-Harpy is also going to the way of Alpha City, but 3 kills out of nothing, out of a failed invade from Royalty. It doesn't bode well so far for the start, but it's not the end of the world.
It was a decent call there from Royalty, but just executed poorly overall. They could have looked to invade the speed buff, but the better decision probably would have been to bait at the speed buff, or, if they wanted to commit to it, they had to make sure that no one got picked. Shank was there standing with his back to the enemy, trying to help his team secure the speed buff. Again's not going to do much to a speed buff. You're better off facing the enemy, knocking them up, or keeping yourself in a safe position and helping your team out that way rather than dealing damage.
Slicey already foresees the Typhoon ultimate on his left-hand side. Mid-Harpy's good pressure coming out from Royalty to make sure that ultimate was forced, but on this right-hand side, Royal Custard diving, getting a kill onto KO. That's a kill for Royalty. Notice to get themselves back into this game.
That's good there for Royalty. They haven't been the deadliest team in the OPL, one of the lowest amount of kills in the entire league. So any kill is good for them, and especially onto the solo lane where, as I mentioned pre-cast, Suspiria's been struggling a little bit against an experienced opponent like KO. Any advantage he can get is good. He's going to be able to acquire his own blue buff here, and the extra pressure under the tower is going to give Suspiria a little bit of confidence going forward.
There's not been too much pressure put onto this left-hand side at all, and that's a bit surprising for me on the side of Royalty, especially considering there's a Freya over on that hand side. Very easy to gank the Freya in this early game. Once she gets that Banish online, once she gets this sort of mid-game potential from levels 8 to 12, that's when it becomes a bit more difficult, as she can then look to turn around and kill you instead. But Royal Custard not taking advantage of the fact that it is a Freya in that ADC position.
Mid lane now, Tory Skies dashing in there on to Cosner and Royal Custard. Just looking to bait out some beads and get some damage secured for Swifty. Slicey is here now. A lot of mobility and a lot of sudden quickness from that Susano can really get him into your face before you know he's even there. And he tends to deal a lot of damage, the Susano. His abilities are definitely balanced.
Yeah, almost as balanced as Terra it is at this point. Left-hand side, Gold Fury almost been taken there by Royalty, but they're just going to think better of it. They didn't know where anybody else on the side of Alpha Sydney was, so they thought potentially an invade coming out, potentially a bait coming out from Alpha Sydney. Just going to drop it, be safe, be smart, rather than be sorry.
Taking a look over at the duo lane side of things thus far, pretty quiet. Rana up against Thagoras, Soul against Freya. And thus far, Rana's got a little bit of advantage over Thagoras, but that's just the tail end of the wave telling there between these two guys. Royalty really need to start getting some damage out, getting some picks and some objectives, because late game, this Freya can carry Alpha City to victory by herself.
Shan going to get rooted under tower, but Wind Siphon not on the mark from Slicey, just getting back into the rest of his team. Cosner, Royal Custard, and Shank, they've got a good mid-trio there. They have a lot of CC potential and lockdown. A bit of damage coming up from the Ratataska and the Nuwa, but the Nuwa damage is a bit unconfirmable. They have to make sure that they do CC correctly to give Cosner the best chance of getting that claim in an explosion.
No invade by Royalty onto the stuff this time of Alpha Sydney. But it look at Suspiria here. He's flanking around Swifty here. Misses the root, in fact, onto the Neath. Taurus Guys is here, and Suspiria now has to wander back to his own lane. No, the ward control definitely favors Alpha Sydney at this point of the game. And they're very aggressive wards as well, all leading into the mid lane, all on Royalty side of the map. Practically none on their own half of the map.
I can see the game plan coming out from Royalty here. It's the second the speed buff spawns, have Suspiria rotate as quickly as possible to the mid lane, get pressure in the mid lane, invade and put Slicey behind. But after that first time where it didn't work out, the Suspiria rotation was late. the second time round, and it just wasn't in. Nobody was in a position to follow up on the route or any poke that Suspira got.
Spicy burnt his ultimate there and he got a lot of damage down onto Royal Custard, but they were unable to confirm the kill. Alpha Sydney. Looking towards the left-hand side of things now. Thagoras fighting Rana Barana here 1v1 and actually seeming to win the fight. Torres Skies has used his ultimate here, but not going to do much except help his AD carry disengage from the fight. Rana Barana losing a little bit of gold to the tower.
Costa doing the good old AHL adage of press 4, receive kills as Nuwa. Didn't receive a kill there, but almost got a kill on Rana Barana. Later on in the game, when that fire shot is doing a third of your HP, with 400 plus 30% of your magical power as the damage coming out from that ability, that's when you'll start to see Nuwa receive many, many kills.
Torres Skies is getting collapsed on now by Royalty. None of his teammates in the area to help him. Cataclysm from Shank comes through, but the dash from Torres Skies keeps himself in safety. Worldweaver comes through from Swifty, in fact, and stops the Gorus in his tracks. So Torres Skies there, able to get out safely, baited a fair few ultimates as well.
I mean, that was a bit of a misplay there from Royalty as well, because they definitely had the positioning and the CZ to lock in Torres Skies in body blocking form over against that wall. They just constantly were moving as we're trying to get into position, and it just allowed the opening that Torres Skies needed to get away. The World Reaver ultimate also expended by Swifty to help secure the safety of his support. But again, Royalty showing a bit of nerves here.
It's intimidating. The OPL is a different stage to Challengers Cup and even relegations themselves. And, you know, even against a foe that, like Alpha City, that they played in relegations and found success against, OPL, it definitely brings with it an added weight of expectations. Shanky caught out a little bit, forced a stone shield himself, pulled back in by Slicey. Takes a good amount of poke, but Alpha City just clearing him out of the way so they can control the vision here in the Gold Fury pit.
Left-hand side a bit more on this mid lane. Slicey over the wall. Both the junglers do have Wrath yet again. It seems to become a staple from the junglers here in the Oceanic Pro League. Royal Custard going to get taunted as well as Costa, who can only shield one of them. Good taunt. A good play from Torres Skies as KO makes his rotation as well. Mid tower under a lot of pressure, and that's forced rotation from the ADCs.
Bureau is here as well, and he's actually getting chased down. Good route through the wall from Swifty. Overhead kick keeps Spirit alive for now. Knocked up by KO. Spirit at about 50% HP. Here comes Slicey. There's the Typhoon ultimate. Knocks up Suspira. Uses a Mystic Rush, but he doesn't manage to get over a wall. Gets a knocked up Rana Barana. Secures the kill for Alpha Sydney.
That was a panic ultimate there from Suspira. It's like, oh, I've just taken a lot of damage. I need to get out of here. Mystic Rush. I'm going to fall away. Oh, I put myself even in an even worse position. Didn't flick the mouse around. I think the taunt from Torres Skies there just put him, it confused him a bit over this left-hand side. Goldfield going to be started up, and that's going to be spotted out by the fire shots from Nuwa. And that's one of the better things about that fire shots ultimate. It's a free ward every 90 seconds.
Gold Fury was started by Alpha Sydney, as you mentioned. The Nuwa ult really forced the disengage there. I thought Alpha Sydney might have looked to bait a fight around that Gold Fury. As you know, as soon as you see the fire shards, you know, okay, the enemy team's going to know where we are. Perhaps we can look to bait a fight here. They were upper member as well, so it could have been an advantageous situation for them. Chose not to pull the trigger. However, Slicey split push down the right-hand side tier 1 tower.
And the build coming out from Cosna as well. She's going into the Warlock Sash. And that's simply because the Clay Minion's health scales with Nuwa's HP. I believe it's 200 plus 20% of Nuwa's HP is given to the Clay Soldiers, which it's a fair chunk if you get a bit online with this Warlock Sash.
Could possibly look for a Gem of Isolation. I've heard of people using Nuwa like that, and you know, when the Clay Minions hit you, slow down a lot, you know, when the mist hits you as well. So it could be a Gem of Isolation. Could be an Ethereal Staff as well if he feels like he's not going to get enough stacks for that Warlock.
I mean, the Gem of Isolation is a bit early, and it comes from the old days when Nuwa was reworked, and she got this ultimate, and people thought, wow, global ultimate, I can put as many item effects on it as possible. It's going to be amazing, and it turned out not to be so amazing.
Left-hand side, mid-camps here, Slicey, itching in, looking to deal some damage. Torres Guys here, taunts away Cosna. Good route there from Swifty. Applies a lot of damage to the mid laner from Royalty, but no kills come out of that mini engagement there. Alpha City walk away from the tower. We've seen a lot of this kind of back and forth here, just in front of the tier 1 tower in the mid lane, but not a whole heck a lot of results. Torres Guys rooted in place, knocked up by Shank. Taunts in Shank now, a lot of burst damage comes through and takes down the Geb very quickly there. Great bait from Alpha Sydney. Royal Custard does a lot of damage to the Vamana, who goes up with his Colossal Fury. He's re-healing a lot. Mystic Rush over the wall from Suspira. And now Alpha Sydney forcing Royalty away from the Gold Fury. Slicey hanging out on a ward, looking to bait in someone from Royalty or just zone away the rest of the team. Royal Custard forced to go up into the tree away from the Gold Fury. Actually, he's hanging around in the area. Could be looking for an engagement here. Suspiria teleports to a ward, but now he is great holding of the taunt there for Tori's guys. Didn't waste it on the overhead kick immunity.
Oh, Slicey goes in and the rest of his team backs off. Rana goes in by himself as well. And Rana, he's only got Fatalis and Shoes of the Magi. It's 45 magic power, 10 magical penetration. And he's chunking everybody around him. Freya, well, Susano's not balanced. Freya isn't either.
Got 2,500, making that 2,600 gold in hand now as well. Ultimate comes down and Slicey falls down to Thagoras. Good taunt there from Tori's guys. Suspira falls down to a combination of three members of Alpha City. KO in the back helps Swifty pick up a kill onto Shank. No Gold Fury started as yet, but Alpha Sydney just picking up kill after kill.
And it's just Royalty getting baited time and time again, looking to try and prove themselves as a team, trying to prove themselves that they can go in and take fights by themselves, the ones that they want to engage. Most of the time, you're not taking fights you want to engage on. Most of the time, you're taking fights which the enemy team have engaged upon. And it's whether you can take those fights comfortably, whether you can be okay with getting out safely without having to expend too much, that defines how good of a team you are.
Left-hand side mid-camps, Tori's guys is charging his dash here. Cosner and Royal Custard are able to secure those ones. But the mere what I want to touch on there is the mere threat of the Athena dash sometimes is just such a powerful tool that teams often just back away from an advantageous situation just merely from the threat of the dash taunt into some larger amount of burst damage that might not even exist.
Yeah, this is one of the better things about Athena. You can dash in consistently, you can taunt consistently. It's one of the lowest cooldown engages in the game. And it just forces relic after relic after relic. And eventually you will get somebody, or you will get 2, 3, maybe 4, or even 5 people you just taunt in, and they won't have a way to escape from it. And that's when you then engage. That's when you burst people down, and that's when you take the fight. And it's the power of Athena. It's how you define. It's how you use your dash taunt combination that defines the Athena player.
Royal Custard pulled in there by Slicey, but dashes away there from the combination of the Athena and the Susano. Mid lane, Suspira has rotated in here as well. KO doesn't have a teleport available, just gets it back up now as Alpha Sydney look to start this Gold Fury.
And they haven't got the physical damage until Swifty rotates in. The fire shots confirm that the Gold Fury is being taken down right now, but there's a Wrath on hand for Alpha Sydney. And Ace destroyed the first Gold Fury of this game. The engage is breaking out here from Royalty, but Run's going to be the first kill onto Shank there. The fray damage is real. Kosik is killing KO in the backline as well. It's a 1-for-1 trade. As Suspira wants to get even more, he may have baited himself in there.
Oh my goodness, the burst coming out from Alpha Sydney is unreal. Cosner being chased down by Slicey. World Weaver comes through from Swifty as well. Cosner just trying to hide as long as he can. Gets a stun down onto the Tory Skies, but Slicey picks him up in the end. And now they invaded the backhouse. Royal Custard trying to secure these dashes away as Slicey's very low. Slicey though chasing it down here, trying to get the kill. Rana doesn't get the whoop. Royal Custard staying to try and get a kill himself, but Rana is here and Rana is dealing death out to every member of Royalty. Secures the kill, and now Alpha Sydney, 11 kills to 3, 7,900 experience, 5,500 gold. A very, very comfortable lead for Alpha Sydney.
And this is looking pretty dicey for us. If we have a look at the graphs, they're not too far behind. It's 8,000 experience, 5,500 gold. It's not to that 10,000 gold threshold, which teams really can't fight into. But it's starting to approach there, and it's looking like Alpha Sydney are going to get there in the next 5-10 minutes when they start to take down some of the towers. Because there's 5 towers still up available. Royalty have done a good job of defending them, but it's getting harder and harder and increasingly more difficult to fight Alpha Sydney right now.
I want to showcase Taurus guys here for a second. 1, 0, and 10. Part of every single kill Alpha Sydney has got.
That's a perfect support scoreline, really.
No, it's not. If it was a perfect support scoreline, he would have 0 kills and 11 assists.
You got to get a kill to get fed yourself. Come on. If you're not fed, you're just going to die. I mean, look at Shank. He's not fed. He's not going to kill. He's died 4 times for it.
Well, yeah, Shank hasn't gotten a kill in the OPL thus far, so... I mean, I guess he's really playing the perfect support to heart.
Every single time there's just somebody on 1 HP, he's just gonna go, I'm not gonna kill him. I'm just gonna leave him alone.
I want kill steal. This kill could be better used for one of my carries.
Yeah, but he's the one that needs to start carrying himself a bit. I mean, he's picked Geb very squishy in the early game, and that's why he really ought to punish him, and they've done just that. Swifty gonna get engaged upon, though. It's a good triple Cataclysm. Swifty quite low, but the meditation says not for much longer.
Brana doing a lot of damage with the Valkyries, the ultimate coming out from the Freya. Taurus guys gets the kill on 2-1. Slicey gets the kill on to another. But Royalty, they're fighting this fight, but they really can't afford to. They're fighting outside of the tower, when they really should have tried to look for the engagement under the tower.
Oh, Slicey engages
Valkyrie's
himself yet again. The Gorus, he's level 18, so he's got good, but a triple taunt. Only immune there by Suspira with his overhead kick. And that's Taurus guys again getting some perfect engages.
T1 tower in the mid lane has forward. Slicey trying to dive in under the tower here. They're getting a lot of damage onto Thegoris, but he manages to immune himself and get away. Now, Alpha Sydney, taking a look at their lead. Almost 10,000 experience, 6,500 gold. Put the boys in blue in a very comfortable spot for the remainder of this game, especially with their carry, Rana Barana, sitting pretty at 4-0-3.
And he's just been untouched throughout the early game, which is where you want to kill Freya consistently. It's where you want to make sure Freya is put down. But instead, Freya's got the advantage from the ADC position and is starting to abuse that. Going to go into a Rod of Tahuti as his 4th item. When that comes online, about 3 pulses is all she will need to kill most people in this game.
Take a look at play damage here quickly. Swifty and Slicey close to the top. Goris and Kov actually haven't done badly for themselves in the player damage department. So this is actually a decent amount of player damage chart, overall for both teams. But what surprised me is that despite the amount of damage that Royalty's managed to get out, they haven't been able to secure the kills.
My real shock at this damage chart is the fact that KO and Suspira in that solo lane are quite low down, despite the fact they're playing early game aggressive goals like the Vamana and the Raven, who want to try and poke as much as possible. But instead, they're 3rd and about 6th from bottom, respectively. So it's not really been a good game for the solo laners. But KO has done what he needed to do in terms of zoning, rather than Suspira. He's really been haphazard in his engagements.
Look at KO, who's farming between the tier 2 tower, Phoenix, and then the Phoenix, I should say, taking a wave there away and, just giving himself more pressure on this right-hand side. Might be caught here between Cosner and Shank, but realistically, at this point of the game, they don't have the damage to take down that Vamana. Up go the Fire Shards. The Slice is engaging onto Royal Custard over on the left-hand side as well. Pulls him back in. Typhoon ultimate comes through as well as the World Weaver. That's enough to pick the Squirrel up. Stone Shield comes through onto the Goris, and he manages to get back under his tower. Slicey takes a little bit of poke there. Good Cataclysm from Shank. Rana Brana up in the air. Valkyrie's Discretion comes through, but misses the Geb with the last shot, and Shank manages to stay alive somehow.
Did Geb even have HP there? Rana is doing so much damage, and Cosner caught out by himself as well. There goes the Wind Siphon, Slicey into the taunt, and there goes Cosner. Slicey with the kill, and now the mid tier 2 could be under pressure, but it's going to be the left-hand side. Gold Fury, that's going to be the target.
The game has gotten to a point where it's pretty much unwinnable here for Royalty. What needs to happen is they need Alpha Sydney to make a pretty significant mistake and win a team fight and try and wipe everyone on Alpha Sydney off the back of that. But that is very unlikely to happen given Alpha City's team composition. It's very difficult to lock a lot of these members down, especially, the Freya and the Vaman, the Susano as well. Very difficult to lock down. So hoping for that is not going to be the answer for Royalty.
They're just not looking to get any more objectives right now. Alpha City just going to go back, spend the gold, which they have gotten. And it's going to give a breather to Royalty to regroup and refocus, and they need to make sure they take that. But Slice is not going to let that happen and looking to invade. It's actually forced the defender of Olympus, because he went so aggressive, is already down to half HP.
So Alpha City make a similar mistake there, but go unpunished for it. A similar mistake to what we saw Avant-Garde do in the match against Legacy, where they were playing 5v4. They went very aggressively because they had a bit of a lead and gave Legacy a lot of fights. Slicey did something similar there, went very aggressively onto the speed buff, had a lead, but if he died there, that's a significant bounty to give to Royalty, a significant amount of gold and experience that, by itself won't swing the game, but could begin a trend in that direction. And Royal Custard takes a lot of damage here from Tory Skies and KO, but manages to dash away. So Swifty is rotating over to this right-hand side as well. Mid and right-hand side seems to be the target right now for Alpha Sydney. Thegoris just doing his best to farm on the left-hand side.
Right side tier 2 are going to be under pressure, so the rest of the members of Alpha Sydney make their rotation. They need Swifty here. He is the main source of tower damage. You can tell that just because the fact he's got Titan's Bane as his fourth item. But Swifty already going in. He waits for no mana Suspira. He's going to be taunted back into the rest of the members of Alpha Sydney and forced to use the Mystic Rush already. Tier 2 falls down as KO makes a perfect zone.
The Thegoris is split pushing on the left-hand side as well. Should be able to get the tier 2 tower there as well as he has at full heat. But if Alpha Sydney get this Phoenix, it's not going to be worth. Thegoris, though, takes that tower down very quickly. Shank engages here. Cataclysm onto Rana Brana, but the Sanctuary immunes most of the damage. Shank whooped up there by Rana Brana. Shell has been popped for royalty, but the right-hand side Phoenix falls down. Thegoris is taking the left-hand side Phoenix as well. He's got minions on that side. Alpha Sydney are looking to end here. Thegoris trying to do something similar. No, instead, he's going to back and try and defend with the rest of his team. Minions are pouring into the Titan for Alpha Sydney. They're pouring into Royalty's Titan as well. Royal Custard goes in, knocks up a number of them, and Alpha Sydney forced to disengage here. If Thegoris had stayed, he probably could have looked to end the game.
I don't think they would have been able to hold, though. That was the main issue. The Quadrant Wall coming out from Tori's guys meant that they saw that Thegoris was back and they saw that the damage from Soul was there, but the Soul is immediately evaporated. And that's going to be probably the end here. Shank also forced out to Spirit next on the chopping block. Swifty needs to hit the roots here, but the Banish is going to be the one that secures this kill. Swifty with the double kill and the Titan next.
Swifty, KO, Rana Brana. Up into the Colossal Fury goes KO. Custard's here causing some trouble for them, but he can't stand in the way of all three members at once. Uses the Wrath to stun as many places as he can. KO falls down here as the ultimate runs out, but there's no hope for Royalty left here. Titan under 25% HP. Cosner picks up a kill. They're holding as best they can, Royalty, but the Titan's too low. It's under 1,000 HP. Tori's guys trying to secure the end here, but he can't. Royalty hold against all hope here against Alpha Sydney, and they lock down Tori Skies as well.
And Slicey, he was in the mid lane getting a tier 2 tower. Just group up with the team and look to just try and get the Titan as quickly as possible. And, well, Royalty, they hold for now, but the Titan is perilously low. And Swifty, he's also perilously low. Royal Custard's going to clean that one up, but just under 2,000 HP? This is very dicey. Royalty have to come up with a perfect defense time after time for the next 5 minutes.
I really wish Thegoris had just stayed on the left-hand side and they started a base race or something. That would have been pretty exciting to see, and it could have been possible for Royalty to win that. Admittedly, Alpha City have got 4 towers still up, so their Titan's got a lot of HP left, and they might have lost the base race. In the end, they held out, so you've got to say it's the correct decision.
Yeah, and this fire chant's going to be taken here by Royalty, potentially, but KO, he's here, he's trying to take down Thegoris, he's doing what he can to stop this fire chant, at least delay it for the rest of his team to get in. And Royalty, they're split on what they want to do, they need to all in on this fire giant, really, down to about 2,000 HP, down to about 1,250, Alpha City do get the fight, there's a steal, as Royal Custard had to back off, he had no wrath.
Alpha Sydney have the Fire Giant. 2-man banish there from Rana Brana. Cup doesn't knock anyone up there from Slicey, but Suspira falls down to Slicey. The World Weaver was used as well. Shank might fall down here in just a second. This is going to be very difficult for Royalty to defend their Titan with only 3 members up. Luckily, it's the 3 primary damage dealing members and with a lot of wave clear on their side. Only 1 Phoenix is down as well, so they only really have that 1 lane of fire minions to worry about in this next fight. The big difficulty is, of course,
it's 2,000 HP.
It's 2,000 HP. Knock up there from Royal Custard, and it's already over. The damage, way too much there from Alpha Sydney. Royalty couldn't get out of their base in time to defend against Alpha Sydney, and Alpha Sydney take game 1 up against Royalty.
If it was 9,000 HP, Royalty may have been able to defend there with the amount of damage that they had on deck, but 2,000 HP, just gone in an instant, and Alpha Sydney take a very comfortable and resounding game 1. Royalty, they showed some good flashes, and they showed some signs that they have what it takes to be here, but they just need to group it up again. They need to make sure that Suspira isn't engaging by himself, and they need to make sure that Shank isn't getting caught out too much in this early game, because those were 2 major issues in this game that allowed Alpha Sydney to get an insurmountable lead in the mid-game.
All right, we're going to take a short break here between games, and we'll be right back with game number 2 between Alpha Sydney and Royalty.